In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. By the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, one with Luisa, the little daughter of the divine will, I enter into the holy divine will. Come, divine will, come beat in my every heartbeat, come breathe in my every breath, come pray, adore, and reign in me. In the name of everyone and everything, past, present, and future. In, with, through, and for Jesus, Mary, and Luisa. In, with, and for all, that all may be for the glory of God and the good of all souls, giving to God as if all lived in the most holy divine will, united with creation, redemption, and sanctification, praying as one in that one eternal act, for the kingdom to come, reign on earth. Fiat.
And of the Holy Spirit. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Our Lady, Queen of all saints, Our Lady of America, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. On page 8, volume 11, December 10th, 1915. My daughter Luisa, do not tempt me. What? I told you everything to make you be tranquil. Now, this is what Jesus is saying to us as well. Don't be upset by what you're reading. He's telling us this because he wants us to know what's coming. I told you that when I do not come, it is because I, God, have to inflict greater chastisements because my justice wants it. And I even told you the reasons before you did not believe what it was in order to chastise, that I was not coming as usual. But you did not hear that the great chastisements were occurring in the world. Now, this is 1915. That's 100 years. Now you hear me, hear them. And in spite of this, you still doubt. Isn't this tempting me? And so we have to understand that we are living in a world filled with sin. And we have to go through this chastisement. Volume 11, May 25th, 1916. Continuing in my usual state, I was all afflicted, especially because in the past days, Blessed Jesus had showed me how foreign soldiers were invading Italy. The great massacre of our soldiers, the rivers of blood, and the sight of what Jesus himself remained horrified, and I felt my poor heart bursting with pain, and I said to Jesus, save my brothers, your images, from this lake of blood. Do not permit any soul be plunged into hell. And seeing that the divine justice shall ignite its fury even more against the poor creatures, I, Luisa, felt like dying. Now that was 1915. That was also 1940s, and more so now. Foreign soldiers have invaded Italy, have invaded France, have invaded Germany. You have to understand what was said by the head of Turkey, what was said was by the head of Libya. We will invade Europe, and we will conquer Europe. We will conquer Rome. This hasn't happened yet, and we haven't seen the rivers of blood yet. We saw what happened in 1915. We saw what happened in 1940. It's nothing compared to what's coming. You have to understand, the foreign soldiers, the army, marched into France, marched into Germany, marched into Italy. One of the mystics in 1700 said in France, when you see the invasion of the foreigners like ants, you will know that the time has come. And that's what we're seeing. They're just marching in. And this is part of God's plan for chastisement. It's very clear. When you read Scripture, not one stone will be left upon another. That's talking about Rome. You look at Israel, you have a whole wailing wall. There are plenty of stones left on top of one another. You have to understand we are living in a time that Jesus is talking to Luisa about 100 years ago. He says very, very clearly, Jesus had shown Luisa the foreign soldiers that were invading Italy. Last time I was in Rome, it didn't feel like Rome. My friends in Paris, my friends in London, my friends in Germany, they say the countries are gone. And why is this happening? It's because of artificial means of birth control. Because the Catholics said no to the Pope. So therefore, here it is now, 50 years later, and God is saying, okay, here we go. You have to understand, don't be going, oh my God, why is this happening? Sin begets sin. Volume 11, June 4th, 1916. While Jesus was saying this, he marked the various points and towns which had to be stricken by the invasion of strangers. Some people were running away. Some remained naked and starved. Some mixed up. Some killed. Horror and fright were everywhere. Jesus himself wanted to withdraw his glance from such tragedy, frightening and terrorizing. I, Luisa, wanted to prevent Jesus from doing this, but he seemed unshaken. And he told me, my daughter Luisa, the divine justice is pouring out their own bitterness down upon them. I wanted to pour them in you first in order to spare some points to make you content. Then I pour the rest upon them. My divine justice demands its satisfaction. And I, Luisa, my love, my life, I don't know how much about justice, but if I pray to you, it is for mercy. I make appeal to your love, to your wounds, to your blood. After all, they are still your children, your dear images, my poor brothers of mine. That what can they do? It is in what constraints will they be placed? To make me content, you tell me that you poured into me, but the points that you save are very few. And Jesus said, on the contrary, it is too much. It is because I love you, Luisa. Otherwise, I would have spared nothing. And even then, you didn't see that you, Luisa, could not contain any more of this suffering. Therefore, I burst into tears and I said, yet you tell me that you, Jesus, love me. Where is all this love that you have for me? True love knows how to make the beloved one content in everything. And then, why don't you make me larger so I can contain more bitterness and spare my brothers? Jesus cried with me and disappeared. See, he says, you don't understand, Luisa. Everything has to go. Everything has to go. And he's asking us, would you be willing to stand in the breach as Luisa stood in the breach? And it's not only for your family, your friends, your neighbors, but for all of mankind. Volume 11, August 3rd, 1916. I also remember that as I prayed Jesus to hold back the scourges, he told me, my daughter Luisa, do you think I am the one who wants to scourge them? No. On the contrary, my love is so great that I consume my whole life in redoing what man was obliged to do for the Supreme Majesty. And since my acts were divine, I, God, multiplied them into so many as to redo them for everyone and for each one, in such a way as to fill both heaven and earth, to keep man defended, so that divine justice may not strike him. But man with his sins breaks this defense, and once the defense is broken, the scourges strike man. Volume 11, November 30th, 1916. My daughter Luisa, you are my goad. My love is cornered by your violences. If you knew how much I suffered in seeing you, Luisa, suffer because of me, But it is justice that wants to pour itself out, and your very violence forces me to hide. So this is the suffering she took upon herself. Things shall rage more, therefore patience. Besides, know that the reparations done for others have done a great good to you, because in repairing for other souls, you intended to do what I, God, did, and I, God, repaired for everyone, and also for you. I asked forgiveness for everyone. I grieved for the offenses of all. And I also asked forgiveness for you, Luisa, and for you also I grieved. Therefore, as you do what I did, you also take reparations, take the forgivenesses, and take the sorrows I had for you, so that what could do more good to you, my reparations, my forgivenesses, my sorrows, or yours? And then I never let myself be surpassed in love. When I see that for love of me, Luisa, the soul, is all intent on repairing me, loving me, apologizing to me, and asking forgiveness for sinners, to give Luisa tit for tat, I ask forgiveness for her, Luisa, in a special way. I, God, repaired and loved for Luisa. I, God, keep embellishing Luisa's soul with my love, with my reparations and my forgiveness. Therefore, continue to repair, continue to redo, and do not raise conflicts between you and me. So Jesus is saying we have to learn how to repair and redo. It's necessary to learn how to repair and redo so that Jesus can be appeased. Volume 12, September 18th, 1917. Continuing in my usual state, I was in the midst of pains, more so since my celestial mother had made herself seen, crying. I asked the Blessed Mother, my Mama, why are you crying? And she says, my daughter Luisa, how could I not cry, since the fire of divine justice would want to devour everything? The fire of sins devours all the good of souls. The fire of divine justice wants to destroy all that belongs to creatures. And in seeing the fire running, I, Mary, I cry. Therefore pray, pray. So you have to understand, why does this have to happen? The whole reason we are on earth is to get ready for heaven. And Jesus is saying, through his mother, time has come to an end. Jesus is saying to us, the fire is coming. The third purification is coming. Either you're going to go to eternity, or you're going to stay in time and space with the devil. You're going to stay here and burn in the lake of fire where the worm never stops consuming the body. See, Jesus wants us to be with him. He really, really wants us to be with him. But he says very clearly, most people are doing their own thing. Even religious, they're doing their own thing. Our job is to say to Jesus, I want you breathing in my breathing. I want you beating in my heart beating. I want you, Lord, to reign in me. I want you to be the king of my life. I want to repair and redo as you, Jesus, did, as Our Lady did. I truly want to be a true child of Jesus, a true child of Mary, like Luisa. Volume 12, October 8th, 1917. My daughter Luisa, everything that was done by me is eternal. See, God does the divine will. My humanity was not to be suffering for a time, but for as long as the world is the world. And since my holy humanity is in heaven, it is no longer able to suffer. I use the humanities of souls, making them share in my pains in order to continue my holy humanity on earth, and this with divine justice, because when I was upon earth, I, God, embodied all the humanities of all souls within me. And in order to save them and to do everything for them, now, being in heaven, I diffuse in them my holy humanity. My pains and all my holy humanity did for the good of corrupted souls, especially in those who love me, so as to say to the Father, my humanity is in heaven, but also on earth, in the souls who love me and who suffer. So here Jesus saying, if you're going through any suffering, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, Jesus says, offer it up in the divine will and watch what will happen. If you're suffering because you're suffering, it becomes unbearable. But when we're suffering on earth, Jesus' humanity is in heaven, but his humanity is reigning in us. If we are the souls who love Jesus, if we are the souls who suffer with Jesus, so don't look at suffering as a punishment. Don't look at suffering as God being angry with you. Jesus says, you are the ones that I need upon earth. So we offer up our sufferings in the most holy divine will. Therefore, my satisfaction is always complete. My pains are always in act, because the souls who love me stand in for me with their sufferings, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. So be consoled when you suffer, because you, like Luisa, will receive the honor of standing in for Jesus. Do you see, suffering is redemptive. And that's why this Lent is going to be very, very important. This Lent is a very important time to pray, fast, do penance, and convert. For everyone. Stand in not only for your family, but stand in for Cain. Stand in for the first sin on earth was murder, murdering of his own brother. Stand in for the last person on earth who will sin. Bring about a repairing and redoing in the divine will. Volume 12, May 19th, 1918. My daughter Luisa, what a nausea I feel over the disunion of priests. It is intolerable for me. Their disordered life is the cause for my justice, to allow my enemies to overwhelm them and to ill-treat them. The evil ones are already about to attack, and Italy is about to commit her greatest sin, that of persecuting my church, of dirtying her hands with innocent blood. And while Jesus was saying this, he showed me our allies and nations devastated. Many places disappeared and their pride floored. Just last week, we celebrated the anniversary of Monte Cassino being completely leveled. Saint Benedict was the father of all the monasteries, the fathers of all the religious life. And the Germans were there, and the Americans said, well, we got to get rid of them. They leveled the place. And again, this is something that is very, very important, that we understand. God is going to do that to us. He's going to get rid of every aspect of evil. And if you have a sliver of evil within you, it's going to be ripped out of you, torn out of you. And if your life is woven with evils, like a cloth, that's all going to be pulled apart until all the evil is out of you. For some people, there won't be anything left because their goodness is so insignificant. Their holiness is so little. And this most especially with the religious. See, Jesus wants, like he said, he says what he sees with the priests, how it sickens him. So he says very clearly, where am I? Am I on page 10? Top page, volume 12. June 4th. Okay, thank you. My mind went blank. I went, holy cow, where am I? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so if you, Luisa, want to be safe, is that it? Whew, boy, I'll tell you. I usually do this in my sleep. If you, Luisa, want to be safe, repair always. See, that's what he wants. He wants us to repair and redo in the name of everyone and everything, past, present, and future. Repair together with Jesus. Identify yourself with me so much as to form one single echo of reparation between me and you, Luisa. See, that's what we want. We're not praying to be one with Luisa. We're echoing what Jesus taught Luisa. So he says, wherever there is reparation, the soul is as though in shelter. where the soul is protected from the cold, where the soul is protected from hail and from everything. On the other hand, where there is not reparation, it is like being out in the middle of the street, exposed to lightnings, to hail, and to all evils. Times are most sad, and the circle of reparation is not enlarged. There is the danger that those who remain uncovered may be struck by the thunderbolts of divine justice. Pray for your family. Your family, it's not to pray for specifically your family. But if you see somebody in your family sinning, you see someone in your family away from the church, Jesus is saying, pray for all my children who are in the same situation. He says, otherwise, they're going to be struck. Repair for them. Redo for them. See, Jesus says the majority of humanity cannot live in the divine will because their human wills are so strong. Volume 12, June 12, 1918. My daughter Luisa, all that you are saying is true. Everything God have done, everything is for the souls. Love pushed me toward the soul so much that I wanted to wrap within her my works as if within a mantle of defense in order to be sure of putting Luisa in safety. But the creature, ungrateful, rips this mantle of defense. Rips this defense by voluntarily sinning. See, that's the sad part. You have to fight sin as you would fight hell itself. You have to really say to Jesus, I do not want to sin. I want to hate sin. I don't want to get close to sin. And then he says, but when you're ungrateful, you voluntarily sin. The soul escapes from beneath my blessings, my graces, my love, and going outside, she is struck by the lightnings of divine justice. I am not the one who strikes mankind. Mankind strikes himself by sinning. Come against me. He comes against me to receive the blows. Pray for the great blindness of souls that they stop this. Your family doesn't want Jesus Christ. Your neighbors do not want Jesus Christ. There's this one. It was on the news. They were laughing at these Mormons going door to door, and they were recording them. And they says, "We got to talk to these people so they don't go to hell." And they laughed. Who's going to hell? People don't understand. You don't go to heaven. If you are living a sinful life, you don't go to heaven. He says, I want to give this to the souls who have striven their whole life for heaven. And that means if all of a sudden you become aware of God. I remember my uncle, tough guy, tough as nails, the biggest, strongest guy in town. And on his deathbed, he said, I love Jesus Christ. And he said, I want to go to heaven. That was the greatest thing that I heard him say. Jesus wants us to be with him in heaven. We're here on earth to get ready for heaven. That's why Jesus says the divine justice is coming. Everything's going to go. Everything's going to go. He's getting us ready for eternity. And that's why it's very clear what Jesus says to Luisa. He says, pray for their blindness. Pray that they be able to see the truth. And that's what we do in the divine will. It's not only for our relatives and friends. It's for everyone, past, present, and future. It's for Cain. It's for the last person on earth. Volume 12, June 20th, 1918. I, God, reach so much jealousy of love that if I give to priests the authority to consecrate me in the sacramental hosts so that I, God, may be given to souls, I reserve to myself the privilege to consecrate these souls. As they keep repeating their acts in my divine will, as they resign themselves and make the human will go out in order to let the divine will enter. What the priest does over the host, I do with them. And not only once, but every time. Like Luisa repeats her acts in my divine will, she calls me, God, as the powerful magnet, and I, God, consecrate her like a privileged host, repeating over her the words of consecration. This is my body. That's what he wants to do with each and every one of us. He wants to hold us and say, this is my body. This is my blood. He doesn't want us to be separated from him. He wants to consecrate us into living images of him, likenesses of him. I, God, do this with divine justice because the soul, Luisa, who does my will, sacrifices herself more than the souls who receive Holy Communion. But do not do my will. They empty themselves to take me, and they give me full dominion, and if needed, they are ready to sacrifice any pain in order to do my holy divine will. That's where our fiat comes in. You stub your toe, fiat. Someone slams the phone on you, you go fiat. Someone pulls you out in front of you while you're driving, it's fiat. Everything. Jesus, you're in charge. You want this? I will be peaceful, full of peace. I will be joyful, full of joy. So I, God, cannot wait. My love cannot contain itself from communicating me to them until when it is convenient to the priest to give them the sacrament of hosts. Therefore, I do everything by myself. Jesus is consecrating us. If we let Jesus hold us, he says what the priest says, as high priest, this is my body. This is my blood. See, Jesus said to St. Faustina, you must become a living host. And he tells Luisa how to become a living host. It's allowing Jesus to consecrate us. So that it's no longer us, but Jesus in us, reigning as Lord and King and Master. We're allowing him to gaze in our gazing, him to walk in our walking, him to eat in our eating, him to sing in our singing, dance in our dancing. We let the Lord be true Lord of our life. He says, therefore, I, God, do everything by myself in the souls who allow them to be consecrated. Volume 12, July 9th, 1918. My daughter Luisa, I am all love. I am like a fount that contains nothing but love, and everything that might enter into this fount loses all its qualities and becomes divine love. Therefore, justice, wisdom, goodness, fortitude, etc. are nothing other than love in me, God. But who directs this fount? Who directs this love? Who directs everything else? It is my most holy divine will. So he's saying, enter into this gift. Let me allow you to share in my divinity. As the priest puts a drop of water into the chalice filled with wine, that's what he wants. I want to transform you. I want to transmute you. I want you to become a living image and likeness of me. That's what Jesus says. Volume 12, September 4th, 1918. I was in my usual state, which was suffering. And my always loved Lord Jesus came for just a little while, and he told me, my daughter Luisa, creatures want to challenge my justice. They do not want to surrender. Therefore, my divine justice takes its course against them. And these are the creatures from all classes, except not even those who are said to be my ministers, my priests. Maybe because these more than others. What poison they have, the poison those who approach them. Instead of placing me in the souls they want to put themselves in, they want to be surrounded, to be known. And I, God, remain aside. Their poisonous contact instead of rendering souls recollected, distracts them from me. Instead of rendering them reserved, it makes them more free, more faulty, to the extent that one sees souls who have no contact with them being more good and more recollected. So I cannot trust anyone. I am God, forced to allow that people go far away from the churches, far away from the sacraments, in order to prevent the poisonous priests from contacting the poison from them, the people, making the people more evil than the priests. This is my sorrow, and it is great. This wounds my heart, and they are deep. Therefore pray, and united with those few good who are still around, compassionate my bitter sorrow. So when you see somebody leave the church, Jesus says, I am forced to allow those people to leave from the church, to leave the sacraments, to prevent them from being poisoned by these poisonous priests who are making the people more evil than themselves. This is Jesus' greatest sorrow. You have to understand, our job is to pray for priests. If you're having trouble with a priest, it's you're not praying enough for him. If you're having trouble with a bishop, it's because you're not praying enough for them. Jesus says very clearly, he allows people to leave Holy Mother Church to save their souls from evil, wicked priests. You don't know why people don't go to Mass. But what does Jesus says here? I'm allowing them to go away from Holy Mass. Because they'll end up worse if they stayed with these priests. Those are Jesus' words. Pray for priests. Volume 12, October 3rd, 1918. My daughter Luisa, my justice must be balanced. Everything in me is in balance. However, the scourge of death touches souls with a mark of grace, so much so that almost all of them ask for the last sacraments. Man has reached such a point that only when he sees his own skin being touched and feels that he is being destroyed, he shakes himself, while the others, as long as they remain untouched, live lightheartedly. They continue their life of sin. It is necessary that death harvest in order to take away many lives which do nothing other than make thorns sprout beneath their steps, and this in all classes, both lay and the religious. My daughter Luisa, these times are times of patience. Do not become alarmed. Pray that everything may abound to my glory. Pray for the good of all of mankind. The sad part is, a lot of people that are dying now, the children don't want their parents to have the last rites. The children don't want to pray for the souls of their parents. So if you want holy masses said, make sure you get that done before you die, because more than likely nobody's going to do it for you. Not saying anything bad about your children, but make sure you got it down. I mean, I want on my tombstone, pray for this poor sucker. Pray as many masses as you can. You need the holy sacrifice of the Mass is so important. As a matter of fact, if you pray the holy sacrifice for the Mass before a soul dies, it's far more efficacious than after the person dies. But again, Holy Mass, this is everything. I mean, it's the greatest gift. It's the gift of gifts. Okay. Let's see, where are we? October 14th. Volume 12, October 14th, 1918. My daughter Luisa, governments feel the ground missing under their feet. I, God, shall use all means to make governments surrender, to make them come back to their senses, to make them know that only from me can they hope for true peace, lasting peace. So, now I humiliate one, now another. Now I make them become friends. Now I make them enemies. I, God, shall be up to all sorts of things. I, God, shall make their arms fall off. I, God, shall do unforeseen and unexpected things in order to confuse them and to make them comprehend the instability of human things and of themselves, to make them comprehend that God alone is the stable being from whom they can expect every good, and that they want If they want justice, if they want peace, they must come to the font of true justice, of true peace, which is Jesus Christ. Otherwise, they shall not be able to do anything. They shall continue to struggle. And if it may seem that they shall arrange peace, it shall not be lasting peace, but the brawls that shall start again, but more strongly. My daughter, the way things are now, only my omnipotent finger can fix them. At the right time, I, God, shall place it. I, God, shall do this, but great trials are needed, and shall occur, and they shall occur in the world. Therefore, it takes great patience. Volume 12, December 25th, 1918. My daughter Luisa, do not oppose yourself too much. Courage, I am God with you. And even more, I am God inside you. Continue my life. This is why now you feel the weight of divine justice, and you would want to unload itself upon you. Now you feel the tearing of the souls who want to be lost. Now you feel the restless to love me for everyone. But in seeing that you do not have sufficient love, you flood yourself with my love, and you take all the love that everyone should give to me, and then releasing your silvery voice, you love me for everyone and all the other things that you do. Do you think that you are the one doing it? Not at all. See now, why are we in the divine will? This is what Jesus says. It is I, God. It is I, God, who repeat my life in you. Jesus wants this done. I, God, feel restless to be loved by you. Not with the love of a soul, but with my own divine love. Therefore, I, Jesus, transform you, Luisa, and the souls linked to you, Luisa. I, Jesus, want you in my divine will because I, Jesus, want to find in you, Luisa, the one who compensates for me and for all souls. I, Jesus, want you, Luisa, and the souls linked to Luisa like an organ, available to all the sounds that I, God, want to produce. Who's doing this? It's you're not doing anything. Let Jesus have his way with you. I, God, want to repeat my life in you. I, God, want to transform you. I, God, want my holy divine will to reign in you. I, God, want you to compassionate me for all mankind. I, God, want you like an organ so that I can play all the sounds that I want to produce. That's what Jesus is saying. Why is he asking you to enter into the divine will? He's asking you so that you can be one with him and he can be one with you. So that you can walk and talk with God in the cool of the evening as Adam did. I want to repeat my life in you. I want to transform you. I want you to live in the divine will. I want to be able to produce all the sounds that I want. That's so important for us. Jesus is in love with us. Jesus wants this to happen, and he wants it to happen soon. Volume 12, 125-19. It is from within you, Luisa, that I, God, decide the destiny of the world. That's important for us to know. What's the destiny of the world? It's from within Luisa that God is deciding the destiny of the world. What does that mean? He wants us to be one with him. The destiny of the world has been given to Luisa. And if we link ourselves to Luisa, we are with the destiny of the little children of the Holy Divine Will. Jesus says they are the ones that are going to survive this great chastisement. It is from within you, Luisa, that I, God, decide the destiny of the world. Cut that out. Put that on your books. Put that on your typewriter. Put that on your computer. It is your humanity that shelters me, Luisa, just as mine sheltered my divinity. And if my divinity did not have my humanity as a shelter, the poor creatures would have no escape, either in time or in eternity. And divine justice would no longer look at the creature as its own, deserving preservation, but as an enemy, deserving destruction. Now my holy humanity is glorious, and I need a humanity that may grieve, suffer, and share the pains with me, that who will love souls together with me, and will place its life in order to save souls. I, God, chose you, Luisa. Aren't you happy? And aren't we happy? Therefore, I want to tell you everything. I want to tell you about my pains, the chastisements that creatures deserve, so that you may take part in everything, and you be the one with me. After this, I saw my earthly mother and the late confessor of mine, and I wanted to tell them about my state, and they said to me, in these days you have to run the risk that the Lord will suspend you completely from your state of victim, and we, the whole of purgatory, the whole of heaven, have prayed very much how much we did, so that the Lord would not do that. See, heaven wants us to do this. From this, you could comprehend how divine justice is still full of grave chastisements. Therefore, be patient and do not become tired. Luisa. See, all of heaven, all of purgatory said, you, Luisa, must be the victim. Why? Because the destiny of the world depends on you, Luisa. God has chosen you, Luisa. And so her mother and her confessor, who were both in purgatory, said, we prayed that this doesn't happen. You have to do this, Luisa. It's the same thing for us. Once we get to know who Luisa is, we pray that we could be one with Luisa to help her accomplish what Jesus has asked of her. And that's to bring heaven to earth. Volume 12, February 4th, 1919. I don't know how I found myself inside the divine immensity, which was raising thrones of justice for each creature, to which sweet Jesus had to repose for each one of their acts, suffering their pains of death, paying the penalty for everything. And Jesus, like a little sweet lamb, was killed by divine hands to rise again and to suffer more deaths. Oh God, what harrowing pains, dying to rise again, rising again to suffer yet more, a more excruciating death. I felt I was dying and seeing my sweet Jesus being killed. Many times I would wanted to spare just one death for the one who loves me so much. So here we see Jesus dying and rising, dying and rising, dying and rising. And we can understand why Jesus crucified Luisa every day, every day, every day. Volume 12, May 24th, 1919. My daughter of my love, Luisa, you do not want to convince yourself that I, God, look at the world through you. You see, it's the same thing here. God looks at the world through Luisa. She's the newborn. She's the firstborn. And since I, God, dwell in you, Luisa, you are forced to feel what the world sends me, and that is hardness and darkness and sins and fury of my divine justice, etc. Therefore, instead of thinking of my privation, you must think of defending me from the evils that creatures send me, and of breaking the fury of my divine justice, so that I shall remain sheltered within you, Luisa, and the creatures shall be struck less. Volume 12, June 16, 1919. Then don't you know that my divine justice suspends your pains, and when it is forced by the evils of people to pour out new chastisements, evils shall be so grave as to be horrifying. I know that this is a pain for you, Luisa, but I too had the same pain. I would have wanted to free creatures from all pains, both in time and in eternity, but this was not granted to me by the wisdom of the Father, and I, Jesus, had to resign myself. Would you perhaps want to surpass my very humanity? My daughter Luisa, no kind of sanctity is without cross. Remember that. No kind of sanctity is without cross. No virtue can be acquired without union with pains. Remember that. However, know that I, God, shall repair you at the usurous usurious interest for all my privations, even for the pains that you, Luisa, would want to suffer, and you don't. Volume 12. September 26, 1919. My daughter, Luisa, the one who is victim must be exposed to receiving all the blows of divine justice and must feel within herself all the pains of the souls, that the rigors of these pains which deserve from divine justice, and oh, how my holy humanity moaned under these rigors. Not only this, but from your state of privation and abandonment. You can see how creatures are with me, and how the divine justice is about to punish souls with the most terrible scourges. Man has reached the state of complete madness, and with madness the hardest lashes must be used. And Luisa says, oh, my Jesus, my state is too hard. If I did not have to have the enchantment of your will, which keeps me as though absorbed, I don't know what I would do. And Jesus says, my justice cannot take satisfaction from two. This is why it keeps you, Luisa, as if suspended from those pains of before. But since obedience also concurred when I wanted you to put yourself in the state, it is now obedience that wants to keep you in it still. This is why it continues. However, it is always something before divine justice that the creature wants to do on her part. You, however, do not move in anything. And you shall see what your Jesus shall do for you. That's what Jesus wants. He's going to show us what he wants to do for us as well. So we'll end there. And we'll have anointing. We're going to anoint you with oil, holy oil, if you would like to, any kind of healing, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, just a small blessing, okay? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Dearest Lord Jesus, I thank you for your lessons of today. Free me from living one single instant outside of your will. Have pity on me, and do not permit that I either know or acquire any other life except that of your divine will. Fiat et Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.